It was supposed to be a quick trip home, nothing more. I had stayed late at work, and by the time I got on the road, it was well past 10 p.m. The highway I usually took was under construction, so I had to follow an unfamiliar detour through back roads. That's when the fog rolled in. I've never seen anything like it. One moment, the road ahead was clear, and the next, it was like I had driven into a wall of smoke. My headlights barely cut through it. Everything outside the car was shrouded in a dense white haze, and the world suddenly felt very, very small. At first, I thought it was just a patch of fog, something I'd drive out of in a few minutes. But it didn't let up. If anything, it seemed to grow thicker the further I went. The trees lining the road became ghostly silhouettes, and I couldn't see more than a few feet in front of my car. I slowed down to a crawl, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The road was eerily quiet. No other cars, no streetlights, not even the sound of crickets. Just the muffled hum of my engine and the occasional crunch of gravel under my tires when I drifted too close to the shoulder. That's when I saw it, the figure. At first I thought it was just a trick of the fog, a shadow cast by my headlights. But as I crept closer, it became clear that someone was standing on the side of the road. A man, tall and thin, wearing what looked like a long coat. He didn't move, didn't wave for help, just stood there, staring straight ahead. My heart was pounding. Part of me wanted to stop, to see if he needed help, but something about him made my stomach twist. Maybe it was the way he didn't react to my car, didn't even turn his head as I passed him. I told myself he was probably just some hitchhiker, maybe even lost like I was, and tried to shake off the unease. But then I saw him again. It was impossible. I had been driving for at least 5 minutes since I passed him, but there he was, standing by the side of the road, in the exact same spot. I slammed on the brakes, my heart in my throat. My car skidded slightly on the wet pavement, and I sat there staring at him through the fogged-up windshield. He was closer this time, and I could make out more details. A pale face, gaunt and expressionless, and eyes that seemed too dark, like empty sockets. I floored it. The car roared to life, and I sped down the road, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I kept checking my rearview mirror, half expecting to see him standing in the middle of the road, but it was just fog. Endless, suffocating fog. My breathing was ragged, and I kept telling myself to calm down, that it was just my imagination. Maybe I was overtired, or maybe the fog was playing tricks on me. But then my headlights caught something up ahead, and my stomach dropped. It was him again. This time, he was standing in the middle of the road. I swerved, narrowly avoiding him, and the car jolted as I hit the shoulder. My tires screeched as I fought to regain control, and for a moment, I thought I was going to crash. When I finally came to a stop, I was shaking all over. I looked around, but the man was gone. The road ahead was empty, just a long, twisting ribbon disappearing into the fog. I didn't know what to do. My phone had no signal, and I had no idea where I was. Turning around felt like the worst idea, so I kept driving, slower this time, my eyes darting to every shadow and shape outside the car. The fog seemed to grow thicker with every mile, and soon, even the road beneath my tires was barely visible. I was squinting at the faint yellow lines when I saw the shape of a building loom out of the mist. It was a gas station, old and run down, with a flickering neon sign that read "Open." Relief washed over me. At least I could ask for directions or wait out the fog until it cleared. I pulled into the lot, the tires crunching on gravel, and parked near the pumps. The place looked abandoned, but the lights inside were on. I hesitated, scanning the windows for any sign of movement, but there was no one in sight. Gathering my courage, I got out of the car. The air was damp and cold, and the fog clung to me like a wet blanket. I walked up to the door and pushed it open, the bell above it jingling weakly. The inside was just as empty as it looked from the outside. The shelves were half stocked with dusty cans and faded snack wrappers, and the air smelled faintly of mildew. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing slightly. No answer. I was about to turn around and leave when I heard it. A faint shuffling sound, like someone dragging their feet across the floor. It came from the back of the store, near a door marked "Employees Only." "Hello?" I said again, more cautiously this time. The shuffling stopped. I froze, every nerve in my body on high alert. My eyes were fixed on the door, and I swore I saw the handle twitch, just a little. Then the lights went out. Panic set in. The only light came from the flickering neon sign outside, casting long, distorted shadows across the store. I fumbled for my phone, using its flashlight to cut through the darkness. That's when I saw him. He was standing at the end of the aisle, partially obscured by the shelves. His head was tilted slightly, as if he were studying me, and his empty eyes seemed to glint in the dim light. I bolted. I didn't think, didn't look back, just ran as fast as I could back to my car. My heart was pounding so loudly I could barely hear the sound of my own footsteps. I yanked the door open and threw myself inside, slamming the lock button. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the keys into the ignition. The engine roared to life, and I sped out of there, gravel spraying behind me. The fog was even worse now, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away, to put as much distance between me and that gas station as possible. But as I drove, I realized something was wrong. The road didn't look familiar anymore. The trees were gone, replaced by barren fields that stretched endlessly into the mist. And then I saw the lights. At first I thought it was another car, but as I got closer I realized it was the gas station, the same one. I slammed on the brakes, my breath hitching. It was impossible. I had driven straight. There was no way I could have circled back. But there it was, the flickering neon sign casting its sickly glow over the empty lot. I didn't stop. I sped past it, gripping the wheel so tightly my fingers ached. I kept my eyes on the road, refusing to look in the rearview mirror. And then I heard it. A faint tapping sound coming from the back seat. I didn't want to look. Every instinct screamed at me to keep driving, to ignore it. But I couldn't. I glanced in the mirror, and my blood turned to ice. He was there, sitting in the back seat, his pale face inches from mine. The car swerved as I screamed and I lost control. The last thing I remember was the sound of tires screeching and the world spinning around me. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. They told me I'd crashed into a ditch and been found by a passing driver. I tried to tell them about the man, about what I had seen, but they didn't believe me. Said it was probably the fog playing tricks on my mind. But I know what I saw. And sometimes, late at night, I swear I can still hear that faint tapping sound, like someone trying to get in. So here's a warning: if you're ever out driving in the fog and see someone on the side of the road, keep going and don't look back. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more horror stories, and I'll see you in the next Twisted Night Scare.